Are you confused about writing? Do you not know where to start or even how to finish? Do you love writing so much that it burns deep in your soul, but you still don't know how to meet your goals? Are you looking for a little inspiration that will take you on a writer's vacation? Then let us all write together. Let us all write our way. Hello everyone, welcome to Write Our Way. I'm your host Patrick Starks, and today we're just going to talk about short stories and what that's all about for a writer, and just not short stories in general. I think I like to talk about, the book process too, of like writing a novel, and the downfalls and the wins of doing such. The one thing I've learned about writing stories is simplicity is key. I think sometimes when we create stories, we try to do way too much. We try to be way too creative in the beginning, and we just need to have a simple plot first and then elaborate on it. Of course, with my process, I do it the complete opposite. I'm actually very bad about making it crazy and doing a lot of like odd stuff with my stories. And then I trim the fat down to simplicity. But hey, if that works for you, that's fine. I think my way isn't entirely bad, but I think starting off as a beginner, you might want to start off with the simple approach first. I think the way that I do it is a little bit more like if you've been doing it for a while, you kind of know, because it's hard to know what you need to take out and what's not needed if you're just starting, because you don't know what works and what doesn't work. So simplicity is key as a beginner in writing, so that you can, not overwhelm yourself and really just enjoy the process. But in the same breath, again, I'm not trying to have you strive for perfection in the beginning. Again, this is about simplicity. Keep it short and sweet of what character you want to introduce, what's the message behind the story, what's the overall plot. And then once you have that, again, you can elaborate on it. You can add the craziness of it brick by brick. But as a beginner, if you start off brick by brick, you're going to definitely overwhelm yourself, because what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself doing more editing than actually just working on the entirety of the flow of the story. And that's what we really want as writers. We want to have this flow so that we feel satisfied. We really enjoy the story ourselves. When there's no flow, then you feel like there's something off, and then you feel like it's just dreadful every time you go back and try to work on it, because you just don't know where you're at with it. You're lost. And now that I think about it, I believe a lot of this happens with writer's block. A lot of people get writer's block because they're too overwhelmed. They don't know where they are in their story. There's such a maze in their story that it's discouraging them from even continuing. And so they kind of just have this mental block. I wouldn't even call it a mental block at all. It's just you're not interested. It's like someone asking you out on a date that you're just not interested in. It's like you have no interest of actually trying to make it work. I know that's a poor example. It's a pretty sad example, but you get the message. It's just you definitely don't want to have that as a writer, because again, I'm all about enjoying the process. Writing should be fun. It should never feel like a drag when you're doing it. I think if it feels like a drag for you, there's something incredibly that you're doing wrong. But it's really nothing to worry about. It's usually just temporary. This is when you're first starting off, and after a few months to a year, and once it gets past a year to 2 to 3 years, you start to kind of see what you like to write and what you don't like to write. And I'm a true believer in writing what you love, and writing something that you want people to experience, something that you haven't heard from any other story or movie or whatnot. I think Neil Gaiman, one of my favorite authors, he said that before. He said that there really isn't a market out there. There isn't this idea of like you just waking up one morning and saying, or every writer saying, oh, romance is a thing. We're going to all write romance. Everyone in the world is about romance right now. Let's write romance. It's like, it's never like that. There's never a time in writing where there's just only one genre or topic to talk about. Writing, again, is an art form. It's creativity. So you should never really feel like you're boxed in into this category. You should definitely explore as a writer and be experimental. And I think another thing being a writer is being courageous, having some courage to put your bodies of work out there and kind of see if people like it, if they don't. Most of the time, people are going to like it. I mean, it's kind of hard to really, how should I say, it's kind of hard to really slam down on somebody's writing, especially if they're a beginner and it's well known that they're a beginner. Unless they have anything offensive in their stories, I could see it being slammed. But for the most part, like with fiction, there's really nothing to be afraid of. I think the family of fiction is very friendly and open armed. Even me starting off as a writer in the past for the first time, I never really ran into any hiccups where people were just like, "Oh, this guy sucks. Get him out of here." It's like they weren't just like downplaying everything that I put out. It was either they gave me a thumbs up on some stories or they didn't give me a thumbs up, but it was never any like negative comments saying, "Oh, you're a horrible writer" and stuff like that. Because I think, again, writers, we have like this friendliness to one another, to support one another, because it really is a beautiful craft to get into, especially if you're a creative head like myself and others. It's so rewarding. It's like the one thing that I look forward to at the end of the day all the time. It's hard for me to really explain it, but writing has this way of like really bringing you down to a calmness. It's purely meditation, but like without the yoga and the stretching and everything else. It really makes you get lost and forget about all the worries in life and all the stuff that you have to, have responsibility for. Eventually you do have to go back to those things, but it's good to like kind of disconnect your brain from that, right? I think everyone needs that, or else we'd all be stressed out like crazy. And for the most part, if you look at a lot of writers are pretty mellow. They're very chill, very calm, happy, and not the fake happiness where people like, "Oh, you got to smile a lot and you got to like be all cheery and you got to talk a lot and socialize." Like they're like on a whole different level of happiness when it comes to writing. It's like you're internally happy and it doesn't need to really be like projected out there. I think internal happiness is very underrated. I think a lot of people that project their happiness out, that's just for show. Internally, they're still not happy. And I think that's the misconception that we as people have in life, is that we think happiness is showing out and being the life of the party. Trust me, I was the life of the party back in college, but was not happy because I was not doing what I love to do. I was not internally happy with where I was in life, which a lot of people are, and I get that. And that's why I say, not just for writing, find something that you enjoy like I do with writing, something that brings you down to a calm. It could be knitting, it could be cooking, it could be, it could be yoga, it could be, joining any book clubs or writers meetups or anything, anything to just kind of let your brain disconnect from all the troubles. I promise you, you'll feel much better in life. And if writing is one of those things you want to adopt for that, you got my approval, 110%, like no complaints. One of the best crafts you could probably get into. And the thing I like about writing, is you can grow old with it. It's not one of those things. It's not like sports where you're on a time frame. It truly is something you can grow old with. You can be up to your 70s or 80s, still writing bestsellers. I see it all the time. And like most writers that are very successful, don't think of it as a cash cow. Because I think a lot of people, when they choose a career, they think about, oh, the money, like how much is it going to pay? And, oh, I want to make six figures. It's like, forget all that. You know, the money comes when you're really passionate about something. You can't make this stuff up, guys. Every formula of success that I've seen is because those people were solely invested and so passionate about what they were doing. The problem with a lot of people nowadays when they choose a career is they're not very passionate and they're not very honest with themselves. They're doing it for very toxic reasons, either to show out and like show somebody that, oh, I got all this stuff, look at me, I'm bigger and badder than you, or you know, or it just is to just, you know, have a lot of money and buy expensive cars and stuff, which I really don't care much for. It's like, I mean, if that's what you want, that's fantastic, but there has to be a deeper reason, a deeper meaning behind why you do what you do. It can't just be that, because one thing I can learn in life from seeing death and, man, you can't take anything with you when you go. But the one thing you can take with you is your peace of mind, the purity of your soul. And the last thing you want to do when you leave this world is leave bitter, angry, or with regret. You know, it's like when I saw my father pass, he looked, man, he looked so happy. He looked so peaceful. And that said a lot. That showed me a lot. And knowing what my father did, it just, yeah, it really hit home for me. And I think when I talk to you guys about this, I truly want you all to experience the same thing. And I think in this day and age that we're in, you know, there's going to be a lot of people leaving bitter, you know, and not having this sense of having achieved all they wanted. I mean, you never really leave life doing all that you wanted to do, right? I mean, my dad still had tons of things, thousands of things that he wanted to do. But on the bright side, he still accomplished so much, you know, before then. So, I mean, don't look at it as I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do that. Just focus on the now. And that's something I've really learned growing up as a young man is 35 now, you know, and I didn't have that. I had somewhat of that knowledge when I was in my early 20s, like 22, 23. But, you know, it hasn't really resonated to me till recently, you know, till I hit my 30s and my dad's passing. It just really has hit home. And it's like, you really do have to focus on the now and really focus on the things that you love. And also too, like, with your writing, you know, support is really a big thing. Try to surround yourself around other writers, people that are like-minded like you. I'm not saying that you got to ditch everyone that you know, but you also don't want to be around people who don't give a shit, you know, about what you do, because that's not cool either. You know, it's like you want some people around you that's going to be supporting, because another thing that I've learned about success and people, just writers in general, is that they always surrounded themselves around other writers. You know, they were immersed in the writing world, as you should in any career that you're in. You should be immersed in it and around that community. I mean, come on, guys. They don't call it networking for no reason. I mean, you know, networking isn't you just, you know, linking up with a bunch of random people. It's about linking up with people who are invested into the same type of career that you are invested into, the same pathway that you are invested into. Because once you link with those people, you guys can all build each other up. You learn from each other too. It's like you learn what you didn't know about writing from other writers, and they learn something from you. So the more that you guys each share knowledge, the faster you grow and the faster you get to the top. And you see, I used to be that guy that would think I could do it all along. But I remember my brother telling me this. He says, and not just my brother, but a lot of successful people have said this, like, you just can't do it alone. I mean, sure, you can go to the gym, get ripped, get shredded by yourself. But when it comes to certain careers, especially like sports and stuff, you got to have a team. When you want to make a film, you got to have a team. Want to make an animation, got to have a team. You just can't do it all by yourself. I mean, you can, but it's going to be a lot of work, you know? And that took me a while to realize that, because I was so focused on doing everything. I was like, I need to focus on the craft. I need to focus on the writing. That's what I'm strongest at. Yeah, sure. I went to art school. I did visual effects. I worked on illustrations, but I can't do the writing, the illustrations, the visual effects, you know, the voiceovers all by myself. For the voiceovers, I got to have voice actors. For the illustrations, I need to hire an illustrator or find illustrators so that I can focus on the main piece, and that's the writing. Or I can even do you one better for writing. You don't want to necessarily edit everything by yourself, do you? So you got to find an editor. Most writers like myself are pretty introverted. We're not social media gurus. So you need to find a social media marketer to help promote your book. These are all the things that I'm learning now, and I want you guys to know this so that you're not like me and waste too much time not realizing this. Now that I know this, I can get to where I need to get much faster. But a lot of my years were kind of like, I'd say maybe like 2 to 3 years wasted of just, well, let me take that back. Nothing's really a waste. Like, within those 2 to 3 years, I've created some amazing content. I've written hundreds of thousands of short stories and potential novels. However, I've been in this standstill. And I remember again what my favorite author, Neil Gaiman, said, you know, if you want to be a successful writer, you got to finish the work, you know? And I think a lot of writers starting off, they just don't finish the work. You know, they really just, they sit in limbo, create content, but nothing gets out there. No book gets out there. Nothing gets published. And this is why I always recommend to upcoming writers, aspiring writers, to start a web page where, like on WordPress, where you can kind of publish short stories here and then, you know, get the audience to know you and your writing style. And so once you have that audience, you can announce your book. And you've already got kind of an audience that kind of knows what you write and they like what you write. And then they have this, then you can promote to them this exciting book that you have, you know? But he's right. You know, in order to be successful, you have to have some finished work. And that's another shortcut that I would like to give to you guys, you aspiring writers out there. Finish the work, man. Just finish it. Don't waste no time. I don't care how you feel about it. If you're scared, just hit that publish button, you know, just do it. And I promise you, you'll be happy. You'll be so relieved, because then you can move on to the next piece of beautiful work that you have in your mind. Now, I know a lot of people would say, oh, this is just common sense, Patrick. Of course. But the question is it so? Because if it was, you'd be doing it right now. You know, people, I think that's so ironic in the world. We have the most common sense things we should be doing, but somehow we linger away from them. I don't really know the reason why, but we linger away from them. Maybe because we like to figure out things ourselves, which is good. I think, again, I'm not a fan of, you know, doing what everybody does. You know, I feel like you should explore and find out things on your own. However, finding out those things on your own, don't get too lost out there. You know, don't get too lost in the woods, kids. You know, it's a dangerous game because we're on a time clock. And I'm not saying you gotta rush, but you really should value every moment that you have in life. You really should value that time and use it wisely. You know, don't spend it with the wrong things or the wrong people. You know, really think about that, you know. And I'm not saying Because I know a lot of how some people feel about that. They're just like, oh, I don't want to be a cutthroat. I don't want to be, a jerk. And that's the misconception about that too. It's not that you're a jerk. It's just you're protecting your energy, right? You're making sure that you have a healthy mind. Because without a healthy mind, you don't have a healthy body. And then what? You have health problems, you decline, you feel miserable, you feel depressed, and nothing gets done. Then you wake up 30 years later, still haven't done anything, and now you're even more depressed because you've lost so many years. Again, I do not want that for anybody, And while I'm still young, I'm 35 again, I am holding on to whatever I have for dear life. And I'm really happy with my life, and I'm really happy with what I'm doing and on my way to accomplish. And I look forward to sharing more of this journey with you guys, the success of my journey. And I'd love to hear from you guys too on what you do. Because honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, I don't think I need to really describe too much to you about how to write a good story. I think you already know how to do that. I think sometimes you just need to hear somebody prep you up, pump you up, give you a little motivational inspiration to keep going. Because I know what that feels like. You feel like you're not moving. You just feel like giving up. But I promise you, keep writing and you'll get incredibly good over time. I mean, you'll start getting as good as some of your favorite authors out there. And I'm not joking, I'm not being cocky, but I'm definitely up there with some of my favorite authors right now, as far as skill wise of writing a good, compelling, creative story. But I got to get the work out there. I got to get my books out there, which I do have one coming up soon in 2025, early 2025, possibly January, February. So look out for that. It's going to be an incredible book. It's called The Door Inside the Woods. It's going to have some incredible illustrations in it, some incredible writing and content. I'm so excited to share with you guys this book. I've been working on it for a while, and I have, I think 2 to 3 solid books behind that are just about ready to go. I just got to do some patch up work on them, but they're ready to go. So all these years are kind of finally paying off now. Now it's time to kind of release the babies, and let them fly, because I've been holding on to them for too long, and I can't be a mother hen about it. I have to be, again, like here it is. I'm preaching to you guys about being courageous, right? And I haven't even, released mine, but I think it's also too, because I'm kind of a perfectionist. I really wanted to make sure that it's something that I like, or not like, but rather love and enjoy before I put it out there, because regardless of the success of it, it's something that I'm happy with. And that's another thing that I learned from Neil Gaiman, was being happy with the content that you put out. Because a lot of times it's the opposite, right? A lot of people put out some content that, other people like, but they're not even interested in. So then you feel like, I doubt there's any satisfaction with that, I highly doubt it, because you're releasing stuff that you really don't even enjoy. That's like me. Like I was joking with my brother, right, about writing stories or writing scripts for Netflix or something like that in the future. And I told him, I was like, I'm not the guy to write these like toxic movies about the wife cheats on the guy, or the guy cheats on the girl, or, shows like 13 Reasons Why and stuff. Like, I'm not that guy, because things like that, I don't feel like it benefits anybody, really. It just makes people more toxic, in life, because they get this sense of, oh, it's in the movie. Oh, this has happened to me. Oh, this is okay though, because, it's in the movies and it's happened to a lot of people. And it's like, I think we got to get away from this toxicness of storytelling and tell more stories with good morale and beauty. I think that's what the world's missing right now. And that's just my mission in life. I don't know what it is for any other writer, but my mission in life is to put out good morals and embody, this kindness back into the world, because we're a little lost right now, especially in the States, the United States, that is. We're very lost. And I think we need stories to put people back on the right path of just being good to each other, being respectful, being loyal, having faith. We're so past that now. And no one's to blame, but ourselves. We put this stuff out there and we absorb it. But we don't have to create things like that, and we don't have to, eat it and absorb it in our minds. So on that last breath, I would say, on this last note, I would tell you guys, really think about what you want, what kind of message you want to send through whatever type of content you're creating. It doesn't have to be writing. It could be anything else. Just really think about that and really think about how it benefits you and how it benefits your audience. Is it toxic, or is it very refreshing and rewarding and gives people hope? I really want you guys to think about that. But, I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. We really got really super deep on just life and writing and content and where we want to be with our content and our audience connections. This has been real, guys. It's been really good to talk to you guys again. I know I've been gone for a long time, and I know I promised that I was gonna stay more up to date with podcasts, but you know how it goes. Things get busy in life, and I'm solely focused on my books right now. But I promise you that I will try to do my best to continue putting out episodes and talking to you guys about this beautiful art of writing and what it means to us all and to the world. But you know it, guys. All love, all peace, all respect. Become a child again. Imagine, my friends. And I'll talk to you again soon.